A devoted young father is gunned down in his doorway.
Check our pulse for me.
It appeared that he had been shot in the head.
He was laying in a pool of blood. No shoes, no socks.
There was also baby supplies and baby clothing.
The mother of his child says there are plenty of suspects.
Honestly, there's a lot of people in his life that are pretty sketchy.
She gave me numerous reasons why someone would want to kill him.
You didn't shoot him. No, absolutely not.
But when detectives untangle a carefully constructed web of lies, they discover a manipulative killer determined to control everyone around them.
In the video footage, we saw two dark silhouettes going towards the crime scene.
She was like basically acting out what she would say if he was to turn up dead.
She was going to do anything to remove him from her life.
Now get the out of here before I break your jaw.
April 22nd, 2022. It's 12:40 a.m. in the small city of Minot, North Dakota, when police receive an emergency call from a local apartment complex.
911, what is the address of the emergency?
I just opened my front door and my neighbor directly across from me, he's laid out, bleeding from the head. It looks like he might have been shot or hit.
Okay, but he's not moving at all?
No, he is not.
Okay, we have units on the way to check it out.
Minot Police Department! Make yourself known!
When the patrol officers responded on scene, guns are drawn. I could see the male victim's feet had still been protruding from the apartment doorway. He was laying in a pool of blood. He was wearing pajamas, no shoes, no socks.
Okay. Check for a pulse for me. No pulse.
It appeared that he had been shot in the head.
They had identified a .45 caliber shell casing that was just found just around the corner from the exterior apartment door.
Our hope was to find the matching weapon that went with that shell casing.
There's no weapon visible. The apartment's been cleared.
When homicide investigators search the apartment, they find a driver's license identifying the victim as 22-year-old Alexander Eckert.
That apartment was very clean. Nothing was rummaged through. Alex's cell phone was still there on scene as well. So we didn't think a robbery happened. There was also baby supplies and baby clothing and whatnot there to indicate that a child was living there, was going to live there at some point.
The image that the apartment painted to me was that it was a well-prepared father.
After observing the crime scene, my suspicion was that whoever had killed him, we opened the door for. So we knew that the person, the killer, was going to be somebody Alex knew.
We have to figure out who the person is, know their story, if they're having issues with anybody, and talk to the people that's closest to them, because they're going to have the most information as far as who would want Alex dead.
Alexander Riley Eckert was born October 25, 1999, and was raised in an affluent family in Winter Garden, Florida.
Alex grew up in a very loving home. He had a younger brother. He went to a phenomenal school.
He was very, very athletic, and he was so witty. He was very, very smart and quick-witted.
Alex excelled in school as well as on the field. He played many sports, including baseball, lacrosse, and football.
Not only was he, fun and, easy to be around, but, he would talk about things that were, good conversation. Alex was very smart.
After the high-pressure environment of prep school and competitive sports, Alex decided to take some time off before enrolling in college.
Alex had chose a career with Disney for the time being.
While working at Disney World, 19-year-old Alex fell in love with a woman named Heather Hoffman. Heather was 21 and had moved to Florida from North Dakota, seeking a fresh start.
You know, she was very pretty, very smart, very outgoing.
Heather was in beauty pageants growing up, and shortly after the Miss Minot beauty pageant, she was diagnosed with a brain tumor, and she did have to have that surgically removed. Heather didn't talk about how the tumor made her feel a whole lot. She kind of talked about it as if it was a part of her life, but that she's gone through it and that she's over it.
After Heather's surgery, she had moved to Florida, and that's where she started at Disney and met Alex.
They seemed like the perfect couple, the ideal couple, madly in love with each other.
The next year, Heather decided to return to North Dakota to be with her family.
She asked Alex to come with her, and he agrees.
His parents were divorced, and he didn't have the best relationship with his dad, so he wanted the family. He wanted a big house and neighbors across the street that he could wave to, and he wanted babies, and he wanted to live his whole life with Heather.
They moved in together, and in the summer of 2020, 22-year-old Heather and 20-year-old Alex found out they were having a daughter.
He was overjoyed. This was an amazing thing. It was scary, but it was a good thing. It was a blessing.
I remember feeling a little jealous, like an all-American boy who's smart, athletic, handsome. He meets a girl and they have a baby. Like, it was your ideal true love story.
To provide for his growing family, Alex took a job in retail and devoted himself to becoming the best husband and father he could be.
Heather worked on the Air Force Base. Alex, we worked at one of those big box stores. He became a supervisor, and he just wanted to continue to move up the chain because he wanted to make good money. He wanted to grow.
He was going to school for business part-time at Minot State University. He was just, overall, he was just living his best life.
Unfortunately, the good times did not last after the stresses of parenthood took a toll on the young couple. They separated 7 months after their daughter's birth.
It seemed like a switch got flipped. She kicked him out, and then he moved in with me shortly after.
Heather was accusing Alex, saying he was a drunk and saying all these horrible, untrue things, that he was a bad father and stuff. And I think it just really took a toll on him. He was so committed to being a dad and so committed to building his life with this woman. The rug had swept from under his feet, and he had no idea what to do.
Alex was heartbroken, but determined to remain a steady presence in his daughter's life and work with Heather to share custody of their child.
He was like, okay, if we're going to do this, then we're going to do it right. I'm still going to be, the best dad that I possibly can.
But this devoted young father has been found murdered on the doorstep of his new home, leaving investigators to determine why.
We had spent shell casings, .45 caliber, and a cell phone. That's all we had to go with, and we kind of had to build the case from there.
We were able to quickly determine that there was no signs of a struggle.
The door wasn't kicked in. It wasn't rammed, no damage, anything like that. So it signified to us that whoever Alex opened the door for, or whoever went into the apartment, Alex knew.
I returned to the police department to look in our local database to see if we had any information or any contact with him previously. We learned that there was custody issues going on between Alex and Heather. Heather was making child abuse claims through the legal system, and they were in and out of court.
About a month prior, she had filed some child abuse and sexual abuse claims against Alex.
The case against Alex was ultimately inactive due to lack of evidence, but detectives can't ignore the conflict between him and Heather.
After learning about issues she was having with Alex, we knew immediately we had to go talk to Heather.
Coming up, Heather's family paints a disturbing picture of her ex-boyfriend.
They definitely corroborated that Alex was basically a monster.
And investigators track down a series of potential suspects.
We didn't know, was he directly involved in the homicide, or just doesn't want to get Heather in trouble?
Detectives in North Dakota have just learned that 22-year-old Alex Eckert was in the midst of a custody dispute with his ex-girlfriend, Heather Hoffman, making an interview with Heather top priority.
Looking into our local database, we were able to determine that Heather was in fact living on Minot Air Force Base.
Detective Hanks and I responded to the Air Force Base to meet with Heather. We located her at her sister's house.
When we got to the residence, Heather's sister answered the door, very cooperative, inviting. I didn't immediately disclose, why we were there.
I went upstairs to talk to Heather, and Hank stayed downstairs to talk to her sister and their mother. When I first started talking to Heather, she painted a picture that Alex was very abusive physically and mentally to her and their daughter. She claimed he did drugs and alcohol.
When I found out that he was hurting my daughter the same way that he was hurting me, it was kind of my last straw.
Sure.
I left. I'm slightly terrified of him, so I try to avoid him as much as physically possible.
I learned that she had custody of their daughter.
He had signed paperwork when he left stating that he didn't want her at all.
She also told me that she has a new boyfriend and that his name was Richie.
Richie worked with me before Alex and I split.
There was a red flag with that, as it had happened pretty close to the time that she broke up with Alex, and we knew that we needed to look into Richie as well.
As the interview progresses, detectives reveal the purpose of their visit and watch for a reaction.
So, Alex was shot tonight. Okay, and I feel like you would have some answers for us.
Anything I can do to help it? Is he all right?
People react to, bad news differently. Heather, she was actually still calm, simply just asked if he was okay.
Although I thought it was odd that she reacted the way she did, that doesn't necessarily mean that all fingers point to her.
When investigators reveal that Alex's injuries were fatal, Heather's stoic demeanor finally cracks.
I'm not surprised, but I still didn't want it to happen this way. I'm so sorry. There's a lot of mixed emotions right now.
I understand. It's a lot to take in. She said that he was the father of her child, but that they no longer communicate. She said that she had been home all night and was very forthcoming with handing me her phone to show me her Life 360 app, which showed her at that location since 5:20 that night. I had asked if she owned any firearms, and she said that she had recently gone to a gun show and looked at a gun, but that she never purchased it. Who would harm him?
I don't know. Honestly, there's a lot of people in his life that are pretty sketchy.
She gave me numerous reasons why someone would want to kill Alex. Even though we had no direct evidence linking her to the crime, we had a suspicion that she or someone in her circle were responsible. When speaking with Heather's mom and Heather's sister, they definitely corroborated that Alex was basically a monster.
This is interesting because when we search Alex in our database, we'll see is that there was a case filed where she made the child abuse claims. However, it was immediately filed inactive. It was unfounded. There was no evidence to substantiate her claims. When I finally revealed that Alex was actually found this morning to be deceased, he was shot and killed, they did seem in pure shock.
So the reason why we're here is because Alex is dead.
Like he's dead. Like for sure. I don't like him anymore because he hurt my daughter, but oh my God.
When I asked the whereabouts of Heather during the time frame of Alex's murder, Heather's sister confirmed that Heather was home the night of Alex's death.
They were able to verify that she had been there the whole night.
I mean, on base, you have to show your ID when you go through the gate. Can you not ask them?
That was another thing we were gonna do.
The military base is a town in itself. It's about 9 miles from the city of Minot.
We asked the base to look into Heather's ID scans to see when was the last time she was seen being scanned into base.
A review of the logs indicates Heather never left the base on the night of Alex's murder.
Heather has an alibi, so investigators need to continue to pursue leads in the case and talk with other people to get to the bottom of what happened to Alex.
We canvassed the area for any surrounding video surveillance. Detective Gurton had actually found video surveillance from a residence just east of Alex's apartment complex.
In the video footage, we saw 2 dark silhouettes going towards the crime scene. We knew that we were looking at a big piece to the puzzle.
When the prime suspect in the murder of Alex Eckert is alibied, detectives focus on other leads, including surveillance pulled from nearby cameras.
When I reviewed this video surveillance, about 10:18 p.m., you can see 2 shadow figures walking across northbound going towards Alex's apartment. Now, this video surveillance also had audio, so at about 10:28, you can hear what sounded to be a gunshot. Two minutes later, at 10:30 p.m., the same 2 shadows are seen then walking back towards where they originally came.
Even though it's very, very grainy footage, it was clear that the black silhouettes within the video footage were of a taller person and a shorter person.
After learning that Heather had a new boyfriend named Richie, it did kind of bring in a possible new motive as to why Alex was murdered. There was the suspicion that Richie may have acted on her behalf to, in fact, kill Alex. So after speaking to Heather and her family, I made contact and spoke with Richie. He was cooperative. We asked him when he last saw Alex. Richie said he hadn't seen Alex since March 2nd.
The reason why we're talking about it is because he was found dead in the middle of the night.
Oh.
So you haven't talked to him or anything like that?
Absolutely.
You haven't had no issues?
No, nope.
It appeared as if he stayed out of anything that had to do with Alex and Heather's relationship. He was very forthcoming with information.
Do you have any weapons?
Yeah, I have a gun in my car.
He had an AR, he had a judge, and he also had a 9mm. However, all firearms he indicated he had, none of them matched the caliber of the weapon used in Alex's case.
Do you mind telling me where you were last night?
I picked up my kid from basketball practice.
Okay.
And then went to my house.
And when would you say you got home?
I'd say 10:15.
Was there anyone or anything that can verify you're at your house all night?
helping my kid.
After speaking with Richie, Detective Hanks and I asked Richie's son to confirm their whereabouts the evening prior. He confirmed, and they returned home and stayed there all night.
At that time, we had no reason to believe that Richie had any involvement in Alex's death.
Prior to speaking to Richie, when I asked Heather who would want to hurt Alex, she said a lot of people, and specifically people that he worked with.
She identified Jason Dugan and a Dale Bonelli as these so-called shady friends.
Investigators start by paying a visit to Dale Bonelli.
With the police department. Do you know Alex? Edgar?
Yeah, I know.
How'd you know? How'd you find out?
The journalist started rushing through me. I got extremely nervous. I told him I had seen a news article on Facebook stating that somebody in North Minot had been murdered the night before. I was not sure who it was. I found out due to cops knocking at my door.
He had nothing but good things to say about Alex. His main information was that if something happened to Alex, that it probably had something to do with the Hoffman family.
Just being straight up, you had nothing to do with it. You didn't shoot him. No, absolutely not. I love that guy. They then asked me who I thought had done it. I told them face to face that they needed to be looking at Heather and not his friends or coworkers.
After confirming Dale's alibi, detectives question Jason Dugan, who has the same things to say about Alex and Heather.
Heather painted a picture of Alex that he was abusive. It was a very vivid picture that he was essentially a monster in her life. And Dale and Jason painted the complete opposite picture.
Jason alleges that certain members of Heather's family had been threatening towards Alex, heightening the tension.
The only complaints that he ever had was about his ex.
It was kind of interesting talking to Jason after we had just talked to Dale, because the two pretty much corroborated the information that Alex was afraid of Heather and Heather's family.
On day 2 of the investigation, detectives hear from more friends about another detail Heather mischaracterized.
April 23rd, I received a call from Tony and Danny, 2 sisters that were friends and coworkers of Alex. They called me saying they want to speak on Alex's behalf.
We got a hold of Detective Hanks, and we tried to give him as much information as possible.
We learned that Heather did not have primary custody of their daughter, but that she was just withholding the daughter from Alex.
Alex and Heather had a growing dispute over custody of their child, and that dispute boiled over time, and it became very bitter.
Heather was claiming that Alex was a drunk, which wasn't the case. Alex hated drinking. Alex didn't even like beer. Alex didn't like the taste of alcohol. She was claiming that Alex was abusive, and that couldn't be farther from the truth.
In fact, none of Heather's abuse claims against Alex were ever substantiated.
He was investigated, and every single time, they didn't find anything. Nothing that she was saying was holding water anymore. So the judge favored Alex's side.
All of these things had been dismissed. She was being told by the judge, stop having supervised visits because he has equal rights.
To detectives, the possibility of losing her child would give Heather plenty of motive to kill Alex. But with a tentatively confirmed alibi, someone else would have had to do it for her.
There was a lot of men in Heather's life, from her brother-in-law, new boyfriend, co-workers.
At the time, it stood to reason that there were questions being raised about, could one of these other individuals have killed Alex?
In a stroke of luck, police receive a call reporting the discovery of a potential murder weapon.
A neighbor of Alex's was walking in the area and located a gun on the ground. She then contacted law enforcement and that gun was seized.
The gun is a .45 caliber pistol, which still contains several hollow point rounds.
It was pretty likely that this was going to be our murder weapon just based off the vicinity, but at that time we just weren't sure.
Authorities submit the gun for forensic testing. But before they can link the weapon to the murder or a suspect, they receive another tip.
The caller indicated that there was a female named Heidi that worked at the Minot Air Force Base that might have information in regards to the homicide.
Coming up, a surprising witness reveals cracks in Heather's story.
She said Heather was coming up with what she was going to say when Alex was killed.
And the trail of evidence leads to a possible accomplice.
I just heard it that if I talk that I'll end up like him.
Investigators are now armed with not only a potential murder weapon, but a witness who claims to have important information on Alex Eckert's death.
We tracked down this Heidi. Speaking to her, we learned that she worked in the admin office and worked side by side with Heather.
When I first met Heather, she was very open and she talked about Alex very positively. She seemed to really love him, loved the father that he was being. A little bit later on, there was a shift.
According to Heidi Cook, the change in the relationship was due to a new man in Heather's life, a coworker named Richie.
They were very giddy around each other, flirting a lot throughout the day. That's when Heather started noticing things about Alex that she didn't quite like.
According to Heidi, Heather wasted no time in breaking up with Alex to start dating Richie.
When they had separated, she had Alex sign a document, and in that document she had put that she would take full custody of their daughter.
But according to Alex, Heather concealed this from him by only showing him the signature page.
Alex did not know that that was a part of the document, and he was tricked into signing it. So then their custody battle began as he got a lawyer to fight this document. Heather would make a lot of accusations towards Alex about emotional, physical, sexual abuse, and when those allegations started off, I believed them. She would say he was a horrible father, he was a horrible partner, he was involved in drugs. As time went on, what she was saying wasn't adding up, and kind of started not believing what she was saying.
Heidi tells us that Heather made several comments of wanting Alex dead.
It was even getting to the point where Heather was coming up with an alibi herself of what she was going to say when Alex was killed.
She was like basically acting out what she would say if he was to turn up dead.
Does she like actually have a gun or something?
I think she does.
What is that?
Because they went to a gun show not too long ago. She said that she bought one.
When Heidi told us that Heather in fact did buy a firearm, contrary to what Heather originally told us, this was a new revelation. We knew now we had to look back into Heather.
As detectives begin the process of verifying Heather's gun purchase, they receive yet another call, this time from one of Heather's superiors.
She found that there was a work order placed on Heather Hoffman's family residence on April 21st, the night of Alex's death.
The work order indicated that a male named Jesse was going to respond to fix a furnace at the time when the homicide would have occurred. The work order had multiple red flags that we need to look into. The first one was that Heather created the work order herself, which is not typically how it is conducted.
The maintenance worker that responded out to the residents to do the maintenance was named Jesse. Now, this was odd to this manager because Jesse was not the on-call maintenance worker.
It was also determined that the work order was created after the homicide.
We handle work orders very frequently. It is stamped with your name when you do access the computer.
Heather created the work order approximately 9 hours after Alex was shot.
The next thing she found suspicious was that the work order showed that Jesse was there for over 2.5 hours, specifically from 9 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. on April 21st, which was around to be the time frame of when Alex was shot and killed.
At this point in the investigation with the forged document, this was the first time that we actually had a solid lead to go on in regard to Heather. She created this work order herself, and she placed a male named Jesse on this work order to cover her tracks and alibi them both. With this forged work order document, Heather was trying to distance herself and Jesse from the homicide location and the time frame when the homicide occurred.
After learning this information, we knew that we needed to talk to Jesse immediately.
Three days into the investigation of Alex Eckert's murder, detectives believe they are close to tying his ex-girlfriend, Heather Hoffman, to the crime. And a man named Jesse may be the missing piece of the puzzle.
We didn't know, was Jesse directly involved in the homicide? Did he talk to Heather and have information in regards to the homicide? Or is he just really close with Heather and doesn't want to get Heather in trouble? Sergeant Johnson and I made contact with Jesse at the Minot Air Force Base. We decided to speak with Jesse inside of one of our unmarked patrol units. He didn't want to give a lot of information initially when we spoke with him. He seemed scared about talking with us.
I don't know what kind of threats you got, but if you got threats from somebody, that's something that we didn't know.
I know. I just heard that if I talk, that I'll end up like him.
Who told you that? Richie?
No, I ain't afraid of Richie. I'm more afraid of Heather than anything.
When detectives confront Jesse with the fraudulent work order Heather placed the night of the murder, he finally cracks.
Jesse ended up telling us the night of the homicide, they were hanging out, just talking.
He told investigators that Heather asked him to drive her to Alex's apartment that night, and he agreed to do it.
Heather pretty much says, this is my last opportunity that I'm going to be able to talk to Alex before this hearing.
He was just there kind of for support for Heather, because Heather tried to relay that Alex was a bad guy and abusive.
I kept asking her, I was like, we're just talking, right? And she's like, yeah, because she was, the only reason you're here is because in case he hits me.
When they get to his apartment, Jesse describes that he was not in view and he was actually around the corner of Alex's apartment door.
Jesse indicates that Heather begins to knock on Alex's door. Alex answers, sees Heather.
When he opened the door, he said, Heather, what are you doing? We're not doing this right now. I just stood there, and she goes, does it look like I'm joking? And then that's when I heard the pop.
Jesse panics, almost freezes, then describes that Heather immediately just took off running and they proceeded back to the vehicle.
Jesse ends up driving Heather to the Air Force Base. Heather's still in the back seat. Jesse rolls his window down, provides his ID to the guards, doesn't mention anything to the guards about Heather being in the back seat, and proceeds to drive Heather back.
So the car ride, you didn't say anything? Like, what the happened?
Yeah, and she goes, that didn't go as planned.
Heather makes a comment about she doesn't have to worry about Alex anymore and tells Jesse that she doesn't want to have to worry about him as well. Jesse took that as a threat, and that's why he was initially so scared to speak with us.
He said that night he didn't know she had a gun on her until the shooting, but he did know that she had purchased a gun because he was with her when she purchased it a month prior at the Minot gun show.
Of course, that popped in our heads that maybe he was the one that pulled the trigger on behalf of Heather or trying to protect Heather.
After learning from Jesse and Heidi that Heather had apparently bought this gun at a gun show here in Minot, we were able to locate and retrieve video surveillance from the gun show.
We could see Heather entering the gun show, and we could see Heather leaving the gun show, and another family member of Heather's was carrying the firearm.
We also received the E-trace on the firearm that was recovered across the street from the crime scene, and was found that that was in fact the firearm that Heather had bought from this gun show.
The autopsy revealed that there was an entry wound on the right nostril of Alex in an upward trajectory, which tells us the shooter is much shorter than Alex.
Jesse is a tall male, 6'3", 6'4", at least, so the trajectory of the bullet didn't match the entrance into Alex's head.
Heather Hoffman is 5'5", the perfect height to create the projected angle of attack. The autopsy also ties up another loose end.
The bullet that was recovered from Alex was fairly still intact. I saw that it was actually a hollow point, which was similar to the ammunition that was recovered from the pistol that was recovered near the crime scene. We did conduct ballistics on the firearm, and that's where we learned that Heather's firearm was in fact the murder weapon. It was used to kill Alex Eckert.
Law enforcement then needs to work with prosecutors to build a case that they can convince to a jury of 12 people that this is in fact the person who carried out this crime.
After 4 days of investigation, North Dakota police have enough evidence to charge Heather Hoffman with the murder of her ex-boyfriend, Alex Eckert.
Upon making contact with Heather, her reaction was flat. It was almost as if she was waiting for us to arrest her. I knew in my gut that we had the right person.
Heather's arrest comes as a shock to their friends, but in hindsight, it begins to make sense.
Heather seems to be very truthful, but the more you look into it, it seems like there was plenty of lies and red flags leading up to this.
Heather exaggerated a lot of things in her life, and it created a false narrative of who she was. Heather did believe her own lies. I think that she thought she was doing what was best for their daughter.
I never knew that she had this evilness in her to do something like this. I don't think anyone knew that she was this way.
In September 2023, Heather stands trial for murder. Though Heather denies coercing Alex into signing over his parental rights, prosecutors reveal evidence that Heather tried to intimidate Alex into giving her what she wanted.
Alex recorded a conversation that he had with Heather where Heather confronts him about how they're raising their child. And they played this entire recording in court over audio, and it was admittedly difficult to sit there and listen to it.
And you a month.
A month.
Correct. Because that is what it takes to pay for this child. You are an irresponsible parent.
You didn't have to kick me out of the house.
Yes, I did. You don't need to be in the house to be responsible for your child. Now get the out of here before I break your jaw. You continue to fail her. How dare you sit here and tell me you love her the amount that I do, when you can't even take care of her because you're irresponsible and selfish. Get out of here.
Oh, you just smacked me.
Yes, Because that child is worth more than your or my life combined. And you're failing her.
When that audio became aware to us, it was clear who the real victim was in this.
The prosecution argues that after threats and allegations of sexual abuse didn't work, Heather only saw one option left.
Heather snapped because she knew that it was coming towards the end and Alex was going to get custody. This was her last-ditch effort to try to do something to get the child.
But according to the defense, the wrong person is on trial.
During the trial, the defense focused on Jesse. However, where they failed was Jesse didn't have any motive. One thing that helped with discrediting the defense's argument was the autopsy, showing that the bullet path and the trajectory was an upward angle.
On September 12th, it is left to the jury to decide. After a swift deliberation, they return with a verdict.
Heather was convicted of AA felony murder in Alex Eckert's death, and she was later sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Further, the judge ordered that she have no contact with her child, specifically because she took that right away from Alex.
It's just such a loss that now the child lost both parents, but she got what she deserved because this is unredeemable. This is unforgivable.
She has no remorse. She was going to do anything to remove Alex from her life.
The time with Alex was unforgettable. There's only good memories. There's no bad ones.
I'm really happy that I was able to have these memories with him. We were supposed to make so many more. His daughter's pink beanie, he took it everywhere with him. He was working so hard for her. This was all for her, is what he would say.
The chilling silence of the pre-dawn hours in Minot, North Dakota, was shattered by an emergency call on April 22, 2022. Just 40 minutes past midnight, it was a cry for help from a local apartment complex, signaling a tragedy that would soon unravel a meticulously woven tapestry of deception. Minot Police Department, the voice echoed. A command for presence, a plea for intervention. When patrol officers arrived, the air crackled with a palpable tension, their weapons drawn, a stark reflection of the unknown dangers lurking within the night. The grim reality presented itself almost immediately. A male victim, his feet tragically protruding from the apartment doorway, lying motionless in a deepening pool of crimson. He was clad in pajamas, an image of domesticity violently interrupted, with no shoes or socks, a poignant details suggesting the sudden, unexpected nature of the fatal encounter. There was no pulse, the life force having irrevocably departed. It appeared, chillingly, that he had been shot in the head. The immediate vicinity of the crime scene yielded its first critical clue. A .45 caliber shell casing, discovered mere steps from the exterior apartment door. This tiny metallic cylinder, a silent testament to the violence that had transpired, became an urgent point of focus. The hope was to unearth the matching weapon, to connect this fragment of evidence to its destructive origin, but no firearm was visible at the scene. The apartment itself was then cautiously cleared, a testament to the methodical approach of law enforcement. Upon a thorough search by homicide investigators, a driver's license was recovered, identifying the victim as 22-year-old Alexander Eckert. The interior of the apartment presented an intriguing contrast to the chaos outside. It was remarkably clean, untouched by any signs of struggle or ransacking, suggesting that robbery was not the motive. Alex's cell phone, an almost ubiquitous personal item in modern life, lay undisturbed, further discrediting any notion of theft. Furthermore, the presence of baby supplies and clothing, neatly arranged, painted a picture of an expectant or devoted father, ready for or already living the joys of parenthood. The overall impression conveyed by the apartment as pristine state was that of a well-prepared, loving parent, deeply invested in his family life. This observation immediately sparked a crucial hypothesis. Whoever had committed this heinous act was likely known to Alex, as he appeared to have opened the door willingly. The killer, therefore, was not a stranger, but someone Alex trusted enough to grant entry, or at the very least, not to perceive as an immediate threat. The investigative path was clear. Identify those closest to Alex, delve into his relationships, and uncover any potential conflicts that might shed light on this inexplicable violence. Alexander Riley Eckert, born on October 25, 1999, was a young man from a privileged background in Winter Garden, Florida. Raised in a home filled with love and support, he was blessed with a younger brother and attended a phenomenal school, excelling not only academically but also on the athletic fields. Alex was a natural athlete, showcasing his talents in baseball, lacrosse, and football. Beyond his physical prowess, he possessed a sharp intellect and a quick wit, making him a captivating presence in any conversation. His friends remembered him as not just fun and easygoing, but also capable of engaging in deep, meaningful discussions. After navigating the demanding environment of prep school and competitive sports, Alex opted for a brief respite before embarking on his college journey. During this interim, he chose a career path with Disney, an iconic symbol of dreams and enchantment. And it was there, amidst the magic, that 19-year-old Alex met and fell in love with 21-year-old Heather Hoffman. Heather, originally from North Dakota, had sought a fresh start in Florida, and her vibrant personality, striking beauty, and sharp intelligence captivated Alex. She had even participated in beauty pageants in her youth, and though she carried the personal history of a brain tumor requiring surgical removal, a chapter she discussed with a quiet resilience, she presented herself as having moved past it. After her surgery, her move to Florida and her role at Disney marked the beginning of what seemed like an idyllic romance with Alex. They were, to all appearances, the perfect couple, madly in love, their future shimmering with promise. The narrative of their shared life soon took them back to North Dakota. The following year, Heather, desiring to be closer to her family, asked Alex to accompany her, and he readily agreed. Alex, whose parents were divorced and who harbored a complex relationship with his own father, yearned for the warmth and stability of a strong family unit. He envisioned a large house, friendly neighbors, and, most importantly, children, a life intimately intertwined with Heather. They settled together, and in the summer of 2020, their dreams began to materialize as 22-year-old Heather and 20-year-old Alex discovered they were expecting a daughter. Alex's joy was boundless. This was more than just a new chapter. It was a profound blessing, a testament to the future he so desperately craved. The feeling among those who knew them was almost one of gentle envy. An all-American boy, intelligent, athletic, handsome, finding true love and starting a family. It was the quintessential love story unfolding before their very eyes. To provide for his burgeoning family, Alex diligently pursued a career in retail, quickly rising to a supervisory role at a major big box store. His ambition was clear: to climb the corporate ladder, to earn a substantial income, and to grow both personally and professionally. He even enrolled part-time at Minot State University, pursuing a degree in business, a testament to his commitment to building a secure future. He was by all accounts living his best life, a devoted partner, and a soon-to-be father radiating vekepite hot purpose. However, the idyllic facade began to crack under the relentless pressure of parenthood, and the good times, regrettably, did not endure. 7 months after their daughter's birth, the couple separated, a sudden and jarring shift that felt to those around them as though a switch had been flipped. Heather, with a stark finality, expelled Alex from their shared home. Heartbroken and disoriented, Alex found solace vekep, ite had a friend, grappling with the bewildering accusations Heather leveled against him. She painted him as a drunk, a bad father, and hurled other unfounded, cruel allegations which deeply wounded him. His unwavering commitment to fatherhood and to building a life with Heather had been abruptly, mercilessly, torn from beneath him, leaving him adrift and uncertain of his next steps. Yet, despite his pain, Alex remained steadfast in his resolve to be a constant loving presence in his daughter's life. He was determined to navigate the complexities of shared custody with Heather, approaching the challenging situation with a maturity beyond his years. His mantra was simple: if they were to separate, they would do it correctly, ensuring his daughter's well-being remained paramount. He would unequivocally be the best father he possibly could be. But this devoted young father was now found murdered on the doorstep of his new home, a tragic end that compelled investigators to relentlessly pursue the underlying reasons. The puzzle pieces were scant: spent .45 caliber shell casings, and Alex's undisturbed cell phone. From these fragments, a complex case had to be painstakingly constructed. The initial crime scene analysis quickly confirmed a critical detail: there were no signs of a struggle. The door showed no damage from forced entry. It had not been kicked in or rammed. This reinforced the earlier suspicion. Alex had opened the door for someone he knew, someone he allowed into his apartment, or at least someone he did not immediately perceive as a threat. Returning to the police department, a search of local databases yielded relevant, if troubling, information. Alex and Heather were embroiled in a contentious custody dispute. Court records revealed a history of legal battles, with Heather repeatedly filing child abuse claims through the legal system. Approximately a month prior to Alex's murder, she had lodged serious allegations of child abuse and sexual abuse against him. However, these claims were ultimately dismissed as inactive due to a complete lack of corroborating evidence. While the case against Alex had effectively collapsed, the intensity of the conflict between him and Heather could not be overlooked. The gravity of the situation was undeniable. Learning of their ongoing disputes, detectives knew immediately that an interview with Heather Hoffman was paramount. Her perspective, her narrative, and her reaction to Alex's death could prove invaluable. The subsequent investigation revealed that Heather was residing on the Minot Air Force Base. Detective Hanks and another officer responded to the base, locating Heather at her sister S. house. Upon arrival, Heather S.'s sister proved cooperative, inviting the officers into the home. Initially, the true purpose of their visit was not disclosed. The primary officer ascended to speak with Heather, while Detective Hanks remained downstairs, engaging in conversations with Heather S.'s sister and mother. During the initial conversation, Heather portrayed Alex in a damning light, characterizing him as physically and mentally abusive. towards both her and their daughter. She further alleged his involvement. They kept into hat drugs and alcohol, claims that would later be scrutinized. She confirmed her primary custody of their daughter and disclosed her new relationship with a boyfriend named Richie. This revelation immediately raised a red flag for investigators. The timing of this new relationship, so soon after her separation from Alex, suggested a potential new motive, demanding that Richie also be thoroughly investigated. As the interview progressed, the detectives carefully unveiled the true reason for their presence, keenly observing Heather's response. "So Alex was shot tonight," the officers stated, "a deliberate, measured delivery of devastating news." "Moat feel like you would have some answers for us. People react to tragedy in myriad ways," and Heather's response was notably calm. She simply inquired if Alex was all right. While this stoic demeanor struck the officer as unusual, it was not in itself an indictment. However, when investigators disclosed the fatal nature of Alex's injuries, Heather's composure finally fractured. Mott met not surprised. But Mott still didn't want it to happen this way, she reportedly stated, followed by an apology for her mixed emotions. She acknowledged Alex as the father of her child, but claimed a complete cessation of communication between them. She asserted she had been home all night and readily offered her phone, presenting her Life 360 app as evidence, which indeed indicated her presence at that location since 5:20 that evening. When questioned about firearms, she admitted to having looked at a gun at a recent show, but denied purchasing one. In response to who might wish Alex harm, she provided numerous reasons, citing a multitude of potential suspects. Despite the absence of direct evidence linking her to the crime, a potent suspicion began to solidify. Heather, or someone within her immediate circle, was likely responsible. Downstairs, Heather's mother and sister unequivocally supported her narrative, corroborating her depiction of Alex as basically a monster. This starkly contrasted with the information uncovered in the database search, which showed Heather's child abuse claims against Alex to have been unfounded, lacking any evidence. When Heather's family was finally informed of Alex's death, their reactions were reportedly one of genuine shock. "What? He dead?" one exclaimed. "Mut, Donnie like him anymore because he hurt my daughter." But oh my God, when questioned about Heather's whereabouts during the critical time frame of Alex's murder, her sister steadfastly confirmed Heather had been home all night, providing a seemingly solid alibi. The Minot Air Force Base operates as a self-contained community, approximately 9 miles from the city, with strict gate protocols requiring ID scans for entry and exit. A request was made to the base authorities to review Heather's ID scan logs for the night of Alex's murder. The subsequent review confirmed that Heather had not left the base that night, effectively providing her with an alibi. This development forced investigators to broaden their focus, to continue pursuing other leads, and interviewing additional individuals to fully unravel the mystery of Alex's murder. The diligent canvassing of the area for video surveillance proved fruitful. Detective Gurdon located footage from a residence situated just east of Alex's apartment complex. This grainy, yet pivotal, video captured 2 dark silhouettes moving towards the crime scene. It was a crucial piece of the puzzle, a silent witness to the events of that fateful night. The footage, recorded around 10:18 Fenmim, showed 2 figures, mere shadows, walking northbound in the direction of Alex's apartment. Critically, the surveillance also included audio. At approximately 10:28 Fenmim, a sound resembling a gunshot could be distinctly heard. A mere 2 minutes later, at 10:30 Fenmim, The same two shadowy figures were observed, walking back in the direction from which they had initially come. Despite the poor quality of the footage, it was discernibly clear that one silhouette was taller than the other, providing a vital physical description. The earlier revelation of Heather S.'s new boyfriend Richie introduced a fresh layer of complexity and a potential new motive for Alex's murder. The suspicion grew that Richie might have acted on Heather S.'s behalf, perhaps even committing the murder himself. Consequently, Detective Hanks and another officer contacted Richie. He was cooperative, stating he had not seen Alex since March 2nd and seemed to have consciously distanced himself from the turbulent relationship between Alex and Heather. Richie was forthcoming about his firearms, owning an AR, a Judge, and a 9mm. However, none of these weapons matched the .45 caliber shell casing found at the crime scene. His son also corroborated Richie's alibi, confirming they had returned home and stayed there all night. At that point, there was no tangible reason to link Richie to Alex's death. Before interviewing Richie, Heather had, when asked, identified numerous individuals who might wish Alex harm, particularly singling out his co-workers, Jason Dugan and Dale Bonelli, as shady friends. Investigators began by visiting Dale Bonelli, who expressed surprise and nervousness, having learned of a murder in North Minna from a Facebook news article, but not knowing the victim's identity until police arrived. Bonelli spoke highly of Alex, stating that if anything had happened, it likely involved the Hoffman family, and he firmly denied any involvement himself. After confirming Dale's alibi, detectives interviewed Jason Dugan, who echoed similar sentiments about Alex and Heather. While Heather had painted Alex as an abusive monster, both Dale and Jason provided a contrasting, positive portrayal of Alex. Jason further alleged that certain members of Heather S.'s family had been threatening towards Alex, intensifying the already strained relationship. It was noteworthy that both men independently corroborated the information that Alex harbored fears regarding Heather and her family. On the second day of the investigation, a new and crucial piece of information emerged from two sisters, Tony and Danny, who were friends and co-workers of Alex. They proactively contacted the police, eager to speak on Alex's behalf. They revealed that Heather did not, in fact, have primary custody of their daughter, but was intentionally withholding the child from Alex. This contradicted Heather's earlier claims. Alex and Heather's custody dispute, they explained, had escalated into a bitter, protracted battle. Heather's allegations of Alex being a drunk were entirely false. Alex detested alcohol and rarely consumed it. Furthermore, her claims of abuse were unsubstantiated through repeated investigations, with no evidence ever found to support them. As her accusations failed to hold water, the judge presiding over the case began to favor Alex's position, dismissing all of Heather's claims and instructing her to cease supervised visits as Alex held equal parental rights. To the detectives, the looming prospect of losing custody of her child provided a powerful, undeniable motive for Heather to desire Alex's death. However, with Heather's alibi seemingly confirmed, the possibility that someone else acted on her behalf became a central focus. There were many men in Heather's life: her brother-in-law, her new boyfriend, Richie, and various co-workers. The question now was whether one of these individuals might have committed the murder for her. In a fortuitous turn of events, the investigation received a significant boost with the discovery of a potential murder weapon. A neighbor of Alex S., while walking in the area, stumbled upon a gun lying on the ground. Law enforcement was immediately contacted, and the weapon was seized. It was a .45 caliber pistol, containing several hollow point rounds, an ominous detail. Given its proximity to the crime scene, it was highly probable that this was indeed the murder weapon, though forensic testing was required for confirmation. Authorities swiftly submitted the firearm for a comprehensive forensic analysis. Before the weapon could be conclusively linked to the murder or a specific suspect, another vital tip arrived. A caller indicated that a woman named Heidi, employed at the Minnow Air Force Base, possessed crucial information regarding the homicide. This lead promised to shed new light on the unfolding mystery. The pursuit of Heidi led investigators to her workplace, the administrative office at Minnow Air Force Base, where she worked alongside Heather. Heidi Cook, when interviewed, revealed a disturbing shift in Heather's demeanor over time. Initially, Heather had spoken of Alex very positively, expressing deep affection and admiration for his role as a father. However, a noticeable change occurred, coinciding with the arrival of a new man in Heather's life, a co-worker named Richie. Heidi described Heather and Richie as giddy, frequently flirting throughout the workday. This shift brought about a transformation in Heather's perception of Alex. She began to find fault with him, noticing aspects she disliked. According to Heidi, Heather wasted no time in ending her relationship with Alex to pursue Richie. During their separation, Heather presented Alex with a document to sign. She later claimed this document stipulated she would assume full custody of their daughter. However, Alex vehemently contended that Heather had tricked him, showing him only the signature page and concealing the custody clause. Upon discovering this deception, Alex immediately sought legal counsel to challenge the document, initiating the acrimonious custody battle. Heather, in turn, escalated her attacks, fabricating numerous accusations against Alex, including emotional, physical, and sexual abuse, labeling him a horrible father, partner, and alleging drug involvement. Initially, Heidi believed Heather's harrowing accounts, but as time progressed, inconsistencies in Heather's narrative began to surface, casting doubt on her veracity. Heidi eventually ceased to believe Heather's claims, noting that what she was saying wasn't adding up. Most disturbingly, Heidi recounted several instances where Heather expressed a desire for Alex to be dead. The situation had escalated to the point where Heather was actively rehearsing what she would say and do if Alex were to die, effectively acting out a fabricated alibi. When asked if Heather owned a gun, Heidi confirmed that she did, recalling that Heather had purchased one at a gun show not long ago. This directly contradicted Heather's earlier denial to the police. The revelation that Heather had indeed purchased a firearm was a significant breakthrough, compelling investigators to revisit Heather's involvement with renewed scrutiny. As detectives initiated the process of verifying Heather's firearm purchase, yet another critical call came in, this time from one of Heather's superiors at the Air Force Base. The superior had discovered a suspicious work order placed for Heather Hoffman's family residence on April 21st, the very night of Alex's death. The work order indicated that a male named Jesse was scheduled to respond to fix a furnace during the time frame of the homicide. Several red flags immediately emerged. Firstly, Heather herself had created the work order, an unusual departure from standard procedure. Secondly, Jesse, the maintenance worker assigned to the task, was not the on-call worker for that evening, raising questions about why he was specifically designated. Most damningly, it was determined that the work order had been created after the homicide. Work orders, the manager explained, are time-stamped with the creator's name upon computer access. Heather had generated this particular work order approximately 9 hours after Alex had been fatally shot. The final suspicious detail was the duration recorded for Jesse's presence. Over 2.5 hours, specifically from 9 Funmeme to 11:30 Funmeme on April 21st, precisely coinciding with the estimated time of Alex's murder. At this juncture of the investigation, coupled with the revelation of the forged custody document, this fabricated work order provided the first concrete, undeniable lead directly implicating Heather. Her deliberate creation of the work order and the placement of Jesse's name on it was a transparent attempt to construct a false alibi for Beote Hat herself and Jesse, seeking to distance them from the crime scene and the critical time frame of the murder. With this explosive information in hand, the immediate priority became an urgent interview with Jesse. 3 days into the investigation of Alex Eckert's murder, detectives felt they were closing in on his ex-girlfriend, Heather Hoffman. The man named Jesse now appeared to be the crucial missing link. The immediate questions revolved around Jesse's direct involvement. Was he the shooter? Did he possess vital information about the homicide from Heather? Or was he merely protecting her? Sergeant Johnson and another officer made contact with Jesse at the Minot Air Force Base, choosing to speak with him inside an unmarked patrol unit. Initially, Jesse was hesitant, guarded, and visibly scared, unwilling to volunteer much information. However, when confronted with the evidence of the fraudulent work order Heather had placed the night of the murder, his composure finally broke. Jesse confessed that, on the night of the homicide, he and Heather had been spending time together, simply talking. He then revealed that Heather had asked him to drive her to Alex's apartment that evening, and he had agreed. Heather presented it as her last opportunity to speak with Alex before an upcoming hearing, and Jesse, believing Alex to be an abusive bad guy, based on Heather's manipulative narrative, agreed to accompany her for moral support. Upon arriving at Alex's apartment, Jesse recounted that he remained out of sight, positioned around the corner from Alex's door. He described Heather knocking, Alex answering, and then, in a terrifying instant, Heather immediately took off running. Jesse, frozen in panic, quickly followed her, and they drove back to the Air Force Base. During their return, Jesse rolled down his window, presented his ID to the guards, and deliberately remained silent about Heather, who was hidden in the back seat. He then drove her back to her residence. When pressed about the car ride back, about not questioning Heather, Jesse explained that Heather made a chilling comment. She no longer had to worry about Alex, and she didn't want to have to worry about Jesse either. Jesse perceived this as a direct threat, which explained his initial fear and reluctance to speak with investigators. He further revealed that he had been unaware Heather possessed a gun until the moment of the shooting, but he had been present with her a month prior at the Minot Gun Show when she purchased the firearm. This new information raised the possibility that Jesse might have been the one who pulled the trigger, either on Heather's behalf or to protect her. However, the tide of the investigation turned dramatically with the confluence of newly acquired evidence. The information from Jesse and Heidi that Heather had bought a gun at a Minot Gun Show prompted investigators to retrieve surveillance footage from the event. The video clearly showed Heather entering and leaving the gun show with another family member of hers, seen carrying the firearm. Concurrently, an E-trace on the bomb alarm caliber pistol recovered near the crime scene confirmed it was, in fact, the very weapon Heather had purchased at that gun show. The autopsy report on Alex Eckert provided the conclusive pieces of the puzzle. It revealed a single entry wound on Alex's right nostril with an upward trajectory. This critical detail indicated that the shooter must have been significantly shorter than Alex. Jesse, a tall male standing at 6 feet 3 or 4 inches, could not have produced such an upward bullet trajectory. Heather Hoffman, however, at 5 feet 5 inches, was the perfect height to create the projected angle of attack. Furthermore, the bullet recovered from Alex's body was largely intact and identified as a hollow point, consistent with the ammunition found in the pistol near the crime scene. The ballistics testing unequivocally confirmed that Heather S.'s firearm was indeed the murder weapon used to kill Alex Eckert. With all the pieces aligned, law enforcement now had to meticulously construct a compelling case for prosecutors, strong enough to convince a jury of 12 individuals beyond a reasonable doubt. After 4 intense days of investigation, North Dakota police had amassed sufficient evidence to formally charge Heather Hoffman with the murder of her ex-boyfriend, Alex Eckert. Upon her arrest, Heather S.'s reaction was notably flat, almost as if she had anticipated this moment. The detective felt a resolute certainty, a deep conviction that they had apprehended the correct individual. Heather's arrest sent shockwaves through their circle of friends. But in hindsight, the disturbing truth began to emerge. Her seemingly truthful facade concealed a carefully constructed web of lies and red flags that, in retrospect, had been leading to this tragic climax. Heather possessed a propensity for exaggeration, crafting a false narrative about her life and circumstances, and in her own mind, she began to believe her own deceptions. It seemed she genuinely thought she was acting in the best interest of her daughter. Those who kept her expressed profound disbelief, never suspecting such a deep-seated malevolence. No one, it seemed, truly understood the dark depths of her character. In September of 2023, Heather Hoffman stood trial for murder. Despite her denial of coercing Alex into relinquishing his parental rights, the prosecution presented damning evidence of her manipulative and intimidating tactics. A key piece of evidence was an audio recording Alex had secretly made of a conversation with Heather, capturing her confrontational and aggressive demeanor regarding their child's upbringing. Played in court, the audio was undeniably difficult to endure, revealing Heather's chilling threats. Want to hear before ma break your. You continue to fail her. How dare you? Sit here and tell me you love her, the amount that ma do, when you can even take care of her because you irresponsible and selfish. Ma look long get out of here. Yes, because that child is worth more than your or my life combined, and you failing her. The raw intensity of Heather S.'s voice, her vitriolic accusations, and her threats exposed a chilling ruthlessness. When this audio evidence became public, it unequivocally clarified who the true victim in this bitter saga was. The prosecution argued that after her escalating threats and baseless allegations of sexual abuse failed to achieve her desired outcome, Heather saw only one remaining, horrific option. Her actions were driven by the realization that she was losing the custody battle, that Alex was on the verge of securing greater rights to their child. This, the prosecution contended, was her desperate, last-ditch effort to seize control of her daughter's future. The defense, however, attempted to shift the focus onto Jesse, suggesting he was the true perpetrator, but their argument faltered significantly due to Jesse's complete lack of motive. He had no personal stake in the custody battle, no history of animosity with Alex, and his initial fear stemmed from Heather's own threats. Crucially, the autopsy results conclusively discredited the defense's theory, as the bullet's upward trajectory physically precluded Jesse, a much taller individual, from being the shooter. On September 12th, the fate of Heather Hoffman was placed in the hands of the jury. After a swift deliberation, their verdict was delivered. Heather Hoffman was found guilty of AA felony murder in the death of Alex Eckert. She was subsequently sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Further, in a profound and symbolic act of justice, the judge ordered that she have no contact with her child, directly acknowledging that she had unjustly stripped Alex of his parental rights. The tragedy, though immense, found a measure of closure. The child, having lost both parents to this devastating act, would now grow up without either. Yet, as one observer noted, Heather received the justice she deserved, for her actions were irredeemable, unforgivable, and devoid of remorse. She was prepared to do anything to remove Alex from her life, a chilling testament to her manipulative and destructive nature. The memory of Alex, however, endures as one filled vacep, itehat warmth and love. His friends and family remember only good times, cherishing the moments they shared, lamenting the countless memories that were tragically stolen. His daughter's pink beanie, a small, tender emblem of his devotion, was a constant companion, carried everywhere he went. This was all for her, he would say, his efforts, his aspirations, all directed towards providing a better life for his child. The loss is profound, a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of unchecked malice and manipulation. From a criminal psychology standpoint, Heather Hoffman presents a classic case of a manipulative personality driven by a profound need for control. Her history, from her participation in beauty pageants to her carefully constructed narrative around her brain tumor, hints at a desire to present a curated, idealized version of herself to the world. The brain tumor, while a genuine medical event, was presented in a way that garnered empathy and minimized its impact, suggesting a pattern of managing perception. Her swift transition from Alex, once the perfect couple, to Richie, coupled with her immediate attempts to gain full custody through deception, illustrates a transactional view of relationships and a ruthless pursuit of her own desires. The core motive here appears to be a narcissistic injury. Alex Inez's refusal to succumb to her fabricated claims and his legal efforts to secure his parental rights challenged her control and authority. For an individual with Heather's psychological makeup, this perceived defiance would have been intolerable. The escalating abuse claims, all unsubstantiated, were not merely attempts to gain custody. They were psychological warfare, designed to break Alex down, to demonize him in the eyes of the court and their community. When these tactics failed, and the legal system began to favor Alex, her desperation would have intensified, leading her to believe that the only way to regain absolute control over her daughter, and consequently over Alex's presence in her life, was to eliminate him entirely. Her acting out of an alibi before the crime is a chilling glimpse into her premeditation and the detachment required to plan such a heinous act. It reveals a mind capable of rationalizing extreme violence as a solution to her problems, devoid of genuine empathy for the victim. Her calm reaction to Alex's death, initially only asking if he was okay despite being told he was shot, further underscores her emotional detachment and the performative nature of her later, manufactured grief. The elaborate scheme with the forged work order and her attempt to implicate Jesse speaks to a certain level of cunning, yet ultimately her self-serving nature and overconfidence in her ability to deceive led to her downfall. The inconsistencies, the lies, the subtle tells that competent investigators are trained to spot, eventually unraveled her carefully constructed facade. The causes of such tragic cases often stem from a convergence of personal vulnerabilities, manipulative tendencies, and systemic failures, to adequately address the psychological underpinnings of conflict. In this instance, the breakdown of the relationship, fueled by Heather's perceived need for control, became a breeding ground for escalating hostility. The custody battle, a legal arena designed to protect the best interests of the child, became instead a weapon in Heather's hands, used to inflict emotional damage and exert dominance. When the legal mechanisms, through diligent investigation, began to expose her lies and shift favor towards Alex, the pressure on Heather would have become immense. For someone whose identity and self-worth might be tied to projecting an image of victimhood or control, the loss of that control would have been perceived as an existential threat. This perceived threat, rather than a rational assessment of the situation, fueled her final, desperate act. The sophistication of the perpetrator, Heather, was moderate. She exhibited cunning in attempting to manipulate legal processes, creating false narratives, and fabricating an alibi. Her use of Jesse as an unwitting accomplice, and her attempt to throw investigators off track with claims about Alex's co-workers, showed a calculated effort. However, her flaws lay in her overestimation of her own intelligence and her underestimation of professional police work, the forensic science, the digital footprint of the work order, the surveillance footage, and the consistent testimonies of multiple witnesses ultimately exposed the cracks in her plan. Her belief in her own lies, a psychological phenomenon where repeated fabrication becomes internalized truth, also prevented her from anticipating the scrutiny her claims would receive. To avoid similar tragic cases, several life lessons emerge with stark clarity. Firstly, it is crucial to recognize and address manipulative behavior early in relationships. Patterns of gaslighting, victim playing, and controlling actions are significant red flags that should not be ignored. Support systems, both personal and professional, are vital in navigating such relationships. Secondly, in custody disputes, the focus must always remain on the child's well-being. While legal battles can be emotionally draining, maintaining open, truthful communication legal counsel, and focusing on documented facts rather than emotional accusations is paramount. Alex's act of secretly recording Heather, though possibly born of desperation, proved to be an invaluable piece of evidence, highlighting the importance of documenting interactions when dealing with manipulative individuals. For those experiencing false accusations, maintaining a clear record of events and seeking legal and emotional support can be life-saving. Lastly, the case underscores the dangers of unchecked anger and the propensity for some individuals to resort to extreme violence when their control is threatened. Understanding that justice, however slow, will eventually prevail is a crucial deterrent. And for victims, knowing that help is available is paramount. From the perspective of police experience in tracking down culprits faster, this case offers several salient points. The immediate, systematic approach to the crime scene was critical. The prompt identification of the .45 caliber casing, the observation that the apartment was undisturbed, and the initial hypothesis that Alex knew his killer effectively narrowed the initial scope of the investigation. The multifaceted approach of simultaneously canvassing for surveillance, running database checks on the victim, and immediately interviewing those closest to him, like Heather, proved highly effective. While Heather's initial alibi from Life 360 and the base ID scans temporarily complicated matters, the investigators' refusal to accept it at face value was crucial. Their subsequent deep dive into all her claims, from the child abuse allegations to the gun purchase, exposed the inconsistencies. The value of detailed witness interviews cannot be overstated. Heidi S.'s testimony, particularly about Heather S.'s gun purchase and her acting out of an alibi, cracked open Heather S.'s carefully constructed facade. The power of digital forensics, exemplified by the fraudulent work order VKEP IT, had its timestamps and creator details, provided undeniable objective evidence that shattered Heather's false timeline. The swift forensic analysis of the recovered weapon, coupled with the detailed autopsy report providing bullet trajectory, scientifically disproved potential alternative theories, like Jesse being the shooter. This integrated approach, combining traditional detective work VKEP, IT, modern forensic, and digital analysis, allowed for the rapid unmasking of the true perpetrator. The experience gained here emphasizes the importance of relentless pursuit of truth, skepticism towards self-serving narratives, and the critical role of technology and forensic science in modern criminal investigations. Justice, in this instance, was hard-won, a testament to the dedication of those who meticulously peeled back layers of deceit to reveal the chilling truth. The tranquil fad of a nascent day, April 22, 2022, was shattered in the quiet city of Minot, North Dakota. The chilling call to emergency services came just past midnight, 12:40 in the morning, heralding a scene that would forever alter the lives of those involved and leave an indelible mark on the community. Police officers, responding with urgent speed to a local apartment complex, found themselves confronted by a gruesome sight. A young man, motionless at his own threshold, guns drawn, their caution quickly shifted to somber confirmation. The male victim's feet protruded starkly from the doorway, a pool of blood darkening the entrance. He was clad in pajamas, lacking both shoes and socks, a posture suggesting an unsuspecting encounter. A rapid check revealed no pulse, and it became disturbingly clear he had been shot in the head. This horrific discovery marked the beginning of a complex and emotionally charged investigation. At the heart of the grim tableau lay a .45 caliber shell casing, discovered mere steps from the exterior apartment door. This tiny metallic cylinder, a silent testament to sudden violence, immediately became a focal point for detectives. Their immediate hope was to locate the matching weapon, a crucial piece of the puzzle that was conspicuously absent from the immediate vicinity. As homicide investigators carefully processed the apartment, they identified the victim through a driver's license. 22-year-old Alexander Eckert. The interior of the apartment presented a puzzling contrast to the brutal scene outside. It was remarkably tidy, devoid of any signs of struggle or ransacking. Alex's cell phone lay untouched, ruling out robbery as a primary motive. Amidst the personal belongings, baby supplies and clothing were found, clear indicators that a child resided or was intended to reside there. The impression gathered by investigators was that of a devoted father, diligently preparing for his child's presence. This carefully maintained domestic setting, juxtaposed with the sudden, violent death, immediately raised suspicions. Alex likely knew his assailant. The door had not been forced open. There was no damage. The killer was someone Alex trusted enough to open his door to, transforming the initial search for a random perpetrator into a focused inquiry on those closest to him. The task ahead was clear: unearth the stories, the grievances, and the connections of Alexander Eckert to illuminate the path to his killer. Born on October 25, 1999, Alexander Riley Eckert was a young man raised in the comfort of an affluent family in Winter Garden, Florida. His was a loving home, shared with a younger brother. Alex attended exceptional schools, distinguished himself as a highly athletic individual and possessed a quick wit that made him both smart and engaging. He excelled academically and on the playing field, dedicating himself to various sports, including baseball, lacrosse, and football. Beyond his athletic prowess and academic achievements, Alex was remembered for his affable nature and his ability to hold meaningful conversations, making him a truly likable presence. After navigating the high-pressure environments of prep school and competitive sports, Alex opted for a brief hiatus before embarking on his college journey. It was during this period that he chose to pursue a career at Disney, a decision that would serendipitously lead him to love. At 19 years old, Alex encountered Heather Hoffman, a 21-year-old woman who had relocated to Florida from North Dakota in search of a new beginning. Heather was captivating, pretty, intelligent, and exceedingly outgoing. She carried with her a history that included participating in beauty pageants and a formidable health challenge, a brain tumor that required surgical removal. Shortly after her Miss Minute beauty pageant, Heather seldom dwelled on the emotional impact of her past health struggles. Instead, presenting them as a part of her life she had bravely overcome. Following her surgery and subsequent move to Florida, she too found employment at Disney, where her path intersected with Alex S. They appeared to be an idyllic couple, deeply in love, painting a picture of a perfect nascent romance. A year into their relationship, Heather decided to return to North Dakota to be closer to her family, and Alex, captivated by her, agreed to join her. His decision was also influenced by his own family dynamics. With his parents divorced and a strained relationship with his father, Alex yearned for the stability and warmth of a strong family unit. He envisioned a future defined by a large house, friendly neighbors, children, and a lifetime spent with Heather. Together, they established their home, and in the summer of 2020, their dreams seemed to materialize as 22-year-old Heather and 20-year-old Alex discovered they were expecting a daughter. Alex's joy was profound and unequivocal. This news, while daunting, was perceived as an extraordinary blessing, an amazing affirmation of their burgeoning life together. Friends observed with a touch of envy, recognizing the all-American boy who was smart, athletic, and handsome, finding love and starting a family. The embodiment of a true love story. To provide for his rapidly growing family, Alex embraced a job in retail, committing himself to becoming the most devoted husband and father he could be. While Heather found employment on the Air Force Base, Alex thrived at a prominent retail establishment, quickly ascending to a supervisory role. His ambition was fueled by a desire for financial stability and growth, driving him to pursue a business degree part-time at Minot State University. He was, by all accounts, living his best life, a testament to his dedication and dreams. Yet this period of happiness proved fleeting, as the inherent stresses of parenthood began to exert immense pressure on the young couple. A mere 7 months after their daughter's birth, their relationship fractured, seemingly irrevocably. The transformation was abrupt, almost as if a switch had been flipped. Heather initiated the separation, forcing Alex out of their shared home. Heartbroken and bewildered, Alex sought solace, moving in with a friend. During this tumultuous time, Heather began leveling severe accusations against Alex, branding him a drunk and a terrible father, amongst other unfounded, distressing claims. These allegations, which Alex vehemently denied and his friends knew to be false, took a significant emotional toll on him. His unwavering commitment to fatherhood and to building a life with Heather was brutally undermined, leaving him adrift and uncertain of his next steps. Despite the profound heartache, Alex remained resolute in his determination to be a constant loving presence in his daughter's life. He was prepared to navigate the complexities of shared custody with Heather, approaching the challenging situation with a calm resolve to ensure his daughter's well-being. He aimed to do it right, committed to being the best father he possibly could, even amidst the dissolution of his romantic relationship. However, this devoted young father was now tragically murdered on the doorstep of his new home, leaving investigators with the arduous task of uncovering the truth behind this senseless act. All they had were a spent .45 caliber shell casing and a cell phone, a sparse collection of clues from which to meticulously reconstruct the events of that fateful night. The initial analysis of the crime scene underscored a critical absence. There was no evidence of a struggle. The apartment door remained unforced, unblemished, reinforcing the theory that Alex had willingly opened it to someone he knew. This strongly suggested that the killer was not a random intruder, but rather someone intimately connected to Alex's life. With this lead, detectives immediately delved into local databases, seeking any prior contact or information pertaining to Alexander Eckert. Their diligent search quickly unveiled a turbulent history. Alex and Heather were embroiled in a contentious custody battle. Heather had initiated legal proceedings, lodging claims of child abuse against Alex. Roughly 1 month prior to his death, she had gone as far as to file disturbing allegations of child abuse and even sexual abuse. However, these grave accusations were ultimately deemed inactive due to a pervasive lack of evidence, providing no substantiation for her claims. Nevertheless, the documented legal conflict between Alex and Heather represented a significant red flag that investigators could not overlook. The discovery of these serious custody disputes immediately elevated Heather Hoffman to a person of significant interest, necessitating a direct and immediate interview. The path forward was clear. Confront Heather and delve into her narrative, as her interactions with Alex now presented a powerful potential motive. As detectives pursued the lead to Heather, her family provided a disconcerting portrayal of Alex. Upon locating Heather on the Minot Air Force Base, Detective Hanks and a colleague proceeded to her sister's house, where Heather was staying. They were met at the door by Heather's sister, who, along with their mother, was cooperative and welcoming. Initially, the true gravity of their visit, the murder of Alex Eckert, was withheld. Detective Hanks engaged Heather's sister and mother downstairs, while his colleague ascended to speak directly with Heather. Heather, when first questioned, presented a narrative painted with vivid accusations. Alex, she claimed, was deeply abusive, both physically and mentally, towards her and their daughter. She further alleged his involvement. They kept hot drugs and alcohol, presenting him in a thoroughly negative light. During this initial interview, Heather confirmed she maintained primary custody of their daughter and revealed she had a new boyfriend named Richie. The timing of this new relationship, so soon after her separation from Alex, immediately raised a red flag for investigators, indicating Richie, too, would require scrutiny. As the conversation progressed, the detectives carefully introduced the chilling news of Alex's shooting, meticulously observing Heather's reaction. While individuals react to profound trauma and distressing news in varied ways, Heather maintained an unusual composure, merely inquiring if Alex was okay. Her initial calm demeanor, though peculiar, did not definitively implicate her, but it did cement their lingering suspicion. It was only when investigators revealed the fatal outcome of Alex's injuries that Heather S.'s composed exterior began to show cracks. Her response mote mean mote met, not surprised, but Mott still didn't want it to happen this way. Mote met so sorry there's a lot of mixed emotions right now. Further deepened the mystery surrounding her, she affirmed. Alex was her child as father, but claimed their communication had ceased. Crucially, Heather was highly forthcoming with her cell phone, showcasing her Life 360 app, which ostensibly demonstrated her presence at her sister S residence since 5:20 that evening. When asked about firearms, she admitted to visiting a gun show recently, but denied any purchase. Pressed on potential suspects, she offered numerous reasons why someone might wish Alex harm, deflecting suspicion broadly. Despite the lack of direct evidence, the detectives felt a growing conviction that Heather or someone within her immediate sphere was intricately involved. The interviews with Heather S., mother and sister, corroborated Heather S.'s alarming depiction of Alex as basically a monster. This narrative clashed starkly with the official database records concerning Alex, which, while documenting Heather S.'s child abuse claims, consistently showed them as unfounded and immediately inactivated due to a complete lack of evidence. The dramatic reveal of Alex's death, that he had been shot and killed, elicited apparent shock from Heather S.'s mother and sister, who responded with exclamations of "What? He is dead?" and acknowledged a dislike for him due to perceived harm to their daughter. However, they provided a seemingly firm alibi for Heather, confirming her presence at home on the night of Alex's murder. This alibi was bolstered by the security protocols of the Minot Air Force Base, a sizable, self-contained community situated approximately 9 miles from Minot City. Entry to the base necessitated an ID scan. A review of the base's gate logs for the night in question revealed no record of Heather leaving the base. This alibi, meticulously constructed through electronic records and corroborated by family testimony, presented a significant roadblock for investigators, compelling them to cast their net wider. With Heather seemingly alibied, the investigation pivoted. Detectives began an intensive search for any available video surveillance in the vicinity of Alex's apartment. Their efforts bore fruit when Detective Gurdon unearthed critical footage from a residence situated just east of the apartment complex. This grainy video, though lacking sharp detail, proved to be a pivotal breakthrough. At approximately 10:18 FUN-MEM, the surveillance captured 2 dark silhouettes moving northbound, unmistakably headed toward Alex's apartment. The video was not only visual but also auditory, recording a distinct gunshot sound at around 10:28 FUN-MEM, 10 minutes after the figures appeared. Just 2 minutes later, at 10:30 FUN-MEM, the same 2 shadowy figures were seen retracing their steps, moving away from the crime scene, returning from the direction they had come. Despite the poor quality of the footage, it clearly depicted one figure as significantly taller than the other. This visual evidence of 2 individuals at the crime scene during the critical time frame of Alex's death introduced a new, compelling dynamic to the investigation. The existence of a shorter and a taller figure became an important descriptive marker. Recalling Heather's admission of a new boyfriend named Richie, investigators revisited the possibility of a love triangle gone wrong. The emergence of Richie introduced a potential new motive. Perhaps Richie, acting on Heather's behalf or influenced by her narrative, had been involved in Alex's murder. Detective Hanks and his colleague made contact with Richie. Richie proved cooperative, asserting he hadn't seen Alex since March 2nd, roughly a month and a half prior to the murder. He seemed to have intentionally distanced himself from Alex and Heather's turbulent relationship. Richie was remarkably candid about his firearms, disclosing ownership of an AR rifle, a judge handgun, and a 9mm pistol. Crucially, none of these weapons matched the .45 caliber casing found at the crime scene. Further corroboration came from Richie's son, who confirmed their shared whereabouts on the evening of the murder, stating they had remained home all night. At this stage, there was no credible reason to link Richie to Alex's death. Before speaking with Richie, Heather had cast a wide net of suspicion, claiming that a lot of people might want to harm Alex, specifically pointing to individuals he worked with, naming Jason Dugan and Dale Bonelli as his shady friends. Investigators dutifully pursued these leads, first interviewing Dale Bonelli. Bonelli, visibly nervous upon police arrival, recounted seeing a news article on Facebook regarding a murder in North Minnow, but claimed ignorance of the victim's identity until police appeared at his door. He offered only positive remarks about Alex, emphasizing that if something sinister had befallen Alex, it almost certainly involved the Hoffman family. He vehemently denied any involvement himself and pointedly suggested that detectives should focus their attention on Heather, not Alex's friends or co-workers. Dale Bonelli's alibi was quickly verified, and the focus then shifted to Jason Dugan, who echoed Bonelli's sentiments. Jason, too, presented a glowing portrait of Alex, diametrically opposed to Heather's characterization. While Heather had meticulously constructed an image of Alex as an abusive monster, Dale and Jason portrayed him as a person genuinely fearful of Heather and her family, recounting a history of threats directed towards Alex from certain members of Heather's family. The consistency in the accounts of these two men was striking. They corroborated each other's narratives, emphasizing Alex's apprehension concerning Heather and her family, adding layers of tension to the narrative of their dissolving relationship. On the second day of the investigation, further insights emerged that challenged Heather's initial claims. Tony and Danny, two sisters who were friends and co-workers of Alex, reached out to detectives, eager to share their perspective. Their information was critical. Heather, contrary to her assertions, did not possess primary custody of their daughter. Instead, she had been deliberately withholding the child from Alex. This revelation illuminated the escalating and increasingly bitter custody dispute between Alex and Heather. The sisters revealed that Heather's allegations of Alex being a drunk were entirely unfounded. Alex, they emphasized, had a strong aversion to alcohol, disliking even the taste of beer. Similarly, Heather's claims of Alex's abusive behavior were definitively debunked, with numerous investigations failing to substantiate any of her allegations. His record remained clean. With none of Heather's accusations holding water, the legal system had increasingly sided with Alex, with a judge dismissing her claims and instructing her to cease supervised visits, affirming Alex's equal parental rights. To the investigators, the potential loss of custody, or at least the severe limitation of her control over their daughter's life, provided Heather with a potent and chilling motive for murder. Given Heather's tentative alibi, the critical question became whether an accomplice within her circle, perhaps her brother-in-law, Richie, or another co-worker, had acted on her behalf. In a twist of fate, a critical piece of evidence emerged when a neighbor of Alex, walking near the apartment complex, discovered a firearm discarded on the ground. The gun, a .45 caliber pistol still loaded with several hollow point rounds, was promptly seized by law enforcement. Its proximity to the crime scene immediately suggested its potential as the murder weapon, though conclusive confirmation awaited forensic testing. Just as authorities submitted the weapon for analysis, Another crucial tip arrived. A caller indicated that a woman named Heidi, employed at the Minot Air Force Base, possessed vital information concerning the homicide. This call heralded a potential turning point, promising to unravel the carefully constructed web of deception surrounding Alex Eckert's tragic demise. The lead to Heidi, an administrative assistant working alongside Heather, proved to be instrumental. Heidi Cook presented a compelling and evolving narrative of Heather's relationship with Alex. Initially, Heather had spoken openly and positively about Alex, expressing deep affection and admiration for his role as a father. However, over time, Heidi observed a distinct shift, coinciding with the appearance of a new man in Heather's life, a co-worker named Richie. Heidi described their interactions as overtly flirtatious, very giddy around each other, leading Heather to begin finding faults with Alex. According to Heidi, Heather wasted no time in severing ties with Alex to embark on a relationship with Richie. The ensuing separation included a document Heather presented to Alex for his signature, ostensibly an agreement. In a chilling revelation, Heidi disclosed that this document included a clause granting Heather full custody of their daughter, a detail Alex remained tragically unaware of, having only been shown the signature page. He had been manipulated, signing away rights. He didn't realize he was forfeiting, leading to a fierce custody battle upon his discovery of the deception. Heidi also recounted Heather's barrage of accusations against Alex. Claims of emotional, physical, and sexual abuse, of being a terrible father and involvement with drugs. Initially, Heidi, like many others, had believed Heather's compelling narratives. However, as time progressed, the inconsistencies in Heather's stories became too glaring to ignore, eroding Heidi's trust in her colleagues' honesty. The most disturbing revelation from Heidi came as she disclosed Heather's chilling fascination with Alex's death. Heather, according to Heidi, had made multiple comments about wanting Alex dead and had gone to the alarming extent of meticulously crafting and rehearsing an alibi for herself, outlining precisely what she would say when Alex was killed. She was like basically acting out what she would say if he was to turn up dead, Heidi stated, painting a picture of calculated premeditation. Crucially, Heidi also contradicted Heather's earlier denial about firearm ownership, confirming that Heather had, in fact, purchased a gun. Does she, actually have a gun or something? Mart thinks she does. What is that? Because they went to a gun show not too long ago. She said that she bought one. This stark contradiction directly undermined Heather's earlier statements to investigators, presenting a significant new revelation that demanded immediate examination of Heather's involvement. As detectives prepared to verify Heather's alleged gun purchase, another unexpected call illuminated yet another layer of deception. This time, it was from one of Heather's superiors, who reported discovering a highly suspicious work order connected to Heather Hoffman's family residence. The work order, placed on April 21st, the very night of Alex's death, detailed a furnace repair and assigned a maintenance worker named Jesse to the task. Several red flags immediately appeared. Heather herself had created the work order, an irregular procedure. Jesse, the assigned worker, was not the designated on-call technician. Most damningly, the work order bore a timestamp indicating it was created after the homicide occurred. As work orders are digitally stamped with the creator's name upon computer access, it was unequivocally proven that Heather generated the document approximately 9 hours after Alex had been shot. Further suspicion arose from the stated duration of Jesse's service. 2.5 hours, specifically from 9 FunMeme to 11:30 FunMeme on April 21st, a time frame precisely coinciding with Alex's murder. To the investigators, this fabricated work order, designed to provide Heather and Jesse with a false alibi and distance them from the crime scene, represented the first truly solid lead directly implicating Heather. The urgent need to interview Jesse became paramount, as he potentially held key information about the night's events and Heather's machinations. 3 days into the intensive investigation of Alex Eckert's murder, detectives now firmly believe they were closing in on his ex-girlfriend, Heather Hoffman, with Jesse potentially holding the final, critical piece of the puzzle. The uncertainty surrounding Jesse's involvement loomed large. Was he a direct participant in the homicide, privy to crucial information, or merely a confidant attempting to protect Heather? Sergeant Johnson and a colleague located Jesse on the Minot Air Force Base, choosing to conduct their interview discreetly within an unmarked patrol unit. Jesse initially appeared hesitant and fearful, unwilling to provide much information. However, when confronted with the irrefutable evidence of the fraudulent work order Heather had meticulously crafted for the night of the murder, Jesse's carefully constructed composure finally crumbled. Jesse began to recount the events of the fateful night. He admitted to investigators that he and Heather had been together, simply conversing. Heather, he explained, had then asked him to drive her to Alex's apartment, a request he complied with. She had presented a seemingly innocent motive, claiming it was her last opportunity to speak with Alex before an impending legal hearing. Jesse, swayed by Heather's prior accounts of Alex being a bad guy and abusive, believed he was simply offering moral support. Upon arriving at Alex's apartment, Jesse described positioning himself out of immediate view around the corner of the apartment door. He then witnessed Heather knocking, Alex answering, and seeing Heather. What followed next, according to Jesse, was a terrifying blur. He panicked, momentarily froze, and then observed Heather abruptly took off running back towards their vehicle. Jesse, adrenaline coursing, immediately drove Heather away, taking her to the Air Force Base. During the journey, Heather remained silent in the back seat. Jesse, still operating under extreme duress, rolled down his window, presented his ID to the base guards, and, fearing for his own safety, uttered not a single word about Heather's presence in the back, driving her back onto the base. When asked about the silence during the tense drive, Jesse admitted to feeling threatened. Heather, he recalled, had chillingly remarked that she didn't have to worry about Alex anymore, and with a thinly veiled menace, stated that she didn't want to have to worry about him as well. Jesse unequivocally interpreted this as a direct threat against him, which explained his initial reluctance to cooperate with law enforcement. He adamantly stated that he was unaware Heather possessed a gun that night until the actual shooting. However, he made a crucial admission. He had been with Heather a month prior at the Minot gun show when she purchased the firearm. This immediate confirmation by Jesse corroborated Heidi's earlier claim and ignited a fresh surge of urgency in the investigation. The possibility of Jesse being the actual shooter on Heather's behalf, or to protect her, was quickly addressed through the confluence of newly gathered evidence. Armed with Jesse's and Heidi's consistent testimonies regarding Heather's gun purchase at the Minot gun show, investigators rapidly secured video surveillance footage from the event. The footage vividly showed Heather entering and later exiting the gun show, with another one of Heather's family members carrying a firearm. This visual evidence, combined with an E-trace on the .45 caliber pistol found near the crime scene, unequivocally confirmed that this recovered firearm was, in fact, the weapon Heather had purchased at the gun show and was subsequently used to murder Alex Eckert. The ballistic tests confirmed the direct link, a crucial piece of forensic evidence further solidified Heather's culpability. The autopsy report. It revealed an entry wound located on Alex's right nostril with a distinct upward trajectory. This specific angle of attack strongly indicated that the shooter was considerably shorter than Alex. Jesse, standing at a height of 6 feet 3 or 4 inches, would not have been able to produce such a bullet path. Heather Hoffman, at 5 feet 5 inches tall, was the ideal height to have fired the shot at that precise upward angle. The autopsy also resolved another critical detail. The bullet recovered from Alex remained largely intact and was identified as a hollow point round, mirroring the ammunition found in the pistol recovered near the crime scene. The combined weight of forensic ballistics, matching the recovered weapon to Heather's purchase and the murder, along with the damning trajectory of the bullet, overwhelmingly pointed to Heather as the trigger person. The diligent efforts of law enforcement now shifted to meticulously building an airtight case, working hand in hand with prosecutors, preparing to present a compelling argument that would secure justice before a jury of 12. After an intense and focused 4-day investigation, the North Dakota police had amassed sufficient evidence to formally charge Heather Hoffman with the double-A felony murder of her former boyfriend, Alexander Eckert. When contacted for her arrest, Heather's reaction was disturbingly muted, almost dispassionately flat. It was as if she had anticipated this moment, patiently awaiting her apprehension, further solidifying the investigating detectives' gut feeling that they had indeed apprehended the rightful perpetrator. Heather's arrest sent shockwaves through their circle of friends, but in the unsettling clarity of hindsight, the intricate web of her deceptions and manipulative behaviors began to untangle and make terrifying sense. What had initially appeared as a portrait of an honest and perhaps beleaguered woman was progressively exposed as a carefully constructed facade, replete with a myriad of lies and flashing red flags that had tragically gone unheeded until it was too late. Heather had meticulously cultivated a false narrative of her own life, driven by a self-serving exaggeration of circumstances and a pervasive belief in her own fabrications. It seemed she genuinely convinced herself that her actions, however extreme, were ultimately for the supposed best of her daughter. Yet, none of Alex's friends could reconcile the image of the seemingly normal woman they knew with the cold-blooded killer she was revealed to be. The pervasive evilness, the chilling capacity for such an act, remained unfathomable to them. In September of 2023, Heather Hoffman stood trial for the murder of Alex Eckert. Throughout the proceedings, Heather steadfastly denied coercing Alex into relinquishing his parental rights. However, the prosecution meticulously presented overwhelming evidence demonstrating Heather's sustained efforts to intimidate Alex and dictate the terms of their co-parenting relationship. A crucial piece of evidence that brought this dark dynamic into stark relief was an audio recording Alex had discreetly made of a confrontation with Heather, detailing their disagreements over their child's upbringing. The chilling audio, played in its entirety for the court, revealed Heather's escalating aggression. "Get the F out of here. Before Mort break your effing jaw. You continue to fail her. How dare you sit here and tell me you love her? The amount that Mort do, when you can even take care of her because you're irresponsible and selfish. Mort look, get out of here. Yes. Because that child is worth more than your or my life combined, and you are failing." Her voice, devoid of empathy, punctuated the courtroom silence. For those listening, the recording unambiguously highlighted Alex as the true victim, cornered by Heather's relentless hostility and unbridled need for control. The prosecution powerfully argued that after her escalating threats and baseless allegations of sexual abuse failed to achieve her desired outcome, namely, sole custody and Alex's complete removal from their daughter's life, Heather perceived murder as her final, desperate solution. She had snapped, prosecutors contended, precisely because she understood that the legal system was inevitably shifting in Alex's favor, and he was poised to gain the custody rights she so vehemently denied him. The defense, in contrast, attempted to divert blame, focusing intensely on Jesse. However, their arguments foundered under the weight of evidence, particularly the glaring absence of any credible motive for Jesse to commit such a heinous act. Furthermore, the defense's claims were directly contradicted by the conclusive findings of the autopsy, which firmly established the bullet's upward trajectory, directly linking the lethal shot to a person of Heather's stature, unequivocally discrediting the possibility of a much taller shooter like Jesse. On September 12th, with all evidence presented and arguments made, the fate of Heather Hoffman rested in the hands of the jury. After a surprisingly swift deliberation, they returned to the courtroom with their verdict. Heather Hoffman was convicted of double felony murder in the death of Alex Eckert. Her sentence was unyielding: life in prison without the possibility of parole. Further cementing the depth of her transgressions, the judge issued a specific order prohibiting any contact between Heather and her daughter, a profoundly symbolic and punitive measure, recognizing that she had brutally stripped Alex of his own parental rights. This tragic outcome, though deeply painful for all involved, was widely regarded as a necessary and deserved consequence for a crime of such callousness. While the young daughter was left to grow up without both parents, one lost to murder, the other imprisoned for it, the justice system had delivered a stern judgment on an act considered unredeemable and unforgivable. Heather had exhibited no remorse, driven by an unwavering resolve to eliminate Alex from her life, regardless of the ultimate cost. For Alex's loved ones, the memories of his presence remained vibrant, untainted by the darkness that ended his life. His dedication to his daughter, exemplified by carrying her pink beanie everywhere and dedicating his hard work to her future, was a testament to the beautiful, brief life that was so cruelly cut short. Motives, causes, and perpetrator sophistication. The murder of Alex Eckert by Heather Hoffman represents a chilling case study in the destructive power of control, manipulation, and unchecked anger, meticulously planned and ruthlessly executed. At its core, the primary motive was Heather's obsessive desire for absolute control over her daughter's life, and her desperate, vengeful response to losing that control to Alex through legal means. The deep-seated causes behind this tragic outcome can be traced to Heather's inherently manipulative personality and her inability to accept anything less than complete dominion over her relationships and circumstances. From the earliest days of their separation, Heather orchestrated a systematic campaign to vilify Alex, using the most heinous accusations, child abuse and sexual abuse, as weapons in their custody dispute. When these fabrications failed to convince the legal system, and in fact backfired by solidifying Alex's parental rights, Heather's pathological need for control escalated beyond rational bounds. The impending court decision, favoring Alex and dismantling her carefully constructed narrative of victimhood, served as the ultimate catalyst, pushing her to eliminate him physically. Her Distorted perception of reality allowed her to believe her own lies, justifying the unthinkable act as a twisted form of protection for her daughter. This self-deception enabled her to present a facade of aggrieved motherhood, concealing the truly dark intentions lurking beneath. Heather's perpetrator's sophistication could be categorized as low to medium, characterized by an amateur yet tenacious attempt at subterfuge that ultimately crumbled under meticulous police work. Initially, she displayed a degree of cunning by planting false accusations of abuse against Alex, leveraging the legal system to undermine his reputation and parental claims. Her attempt to manipulate Alex into signing away his custody rights by obscuring crucial details in a document demonstrates a calculated deception. Furthermore, her foresight in practicing an alibi and her deliberate lie about not purchasing a gun to the police showcased a premeditative intent to evade accountability. However, her execution was fraught with critical missteps, revealing an underlying lack of sophistication. The fatal errors included leaving a discernible .45 caliber shell casing at the crime scene, and even worse, discarding the actual murder weapon relatively close by for a vigilant citizen to discover. Her initial alibi via the Life 360 app was superficial and vulnerable to deeper scrutiny. The most damning evidence of her amateurism was the fraudulent work order, meticulously timestamped after Alex's murder, created by Heather herself, featuring the incorrect on-call maintenance worker and outlining a suspiciously long service time. These glaring inconsistencies immediately flagged the document as a forgery to her manager and subsequently to the detectives. Moreover, involving Jesse, a hesitant accomplice who ultimately confessed under pressure, further exposed her planning deficiencies. Her fundamental misjudgment of forensic science, particularly the bullet trajectory, and her assumption that she could manipulate those around her, indefinitely ultimately sealed her fate. Her belief in her own intricate web of falsehoods, coupled with her extreme emotional motivation, prevented her from constructing a truly foolproof cover-up. Life lessons and insights for law enforcement. The Tragic Case of Alexander Ecker's Murder by Heather Hoffman offers profoundly sobering life lessons, serving as a stark community warning against the insidious nature of manipulative individuals and the catastrophic consequences of unresolved conflict. One of the foremost lessons for individuals is the crucial importance of recognizing manipulative behavior early in relationships. Heather consistently used lies, emotional coercion, and even false legal accusations to control Alex and shape narratives. Anyone encountering a pattern of such behavior, discrepancies between words and actions, attempts to isolate, incessant blame, and unfounded accusations, should treat these as serious warning signs. Such patterns, when unchecked, can escalate dramatically and violently. In the context of separation and custody disputes, thorough documentation becomes paramount. Alex's diligent habit of recording conversations, for instance, proved to be an invaluable piece of evidence, unmasking Heather's true, aggressive nature. It underscores the necessity of formalizing all agreements through legal channels, having legal representation, and meticulously documenting all interactions, communication, and incidents of concern, whether with legal counsel, law enforcement, or mental health professionals. Furthermore, this case powerfully illustrates the profound dangers of allowing interpersonal conflicts, particularly those involving children, to fester and escalate without proper, legal, and mediated intervention. When one party consistently rejects good faith attempts at co-parenting and resorts to harassment and false claims, legal and emotional boundaries become absolutely vital. Learning to trust one's intuition when someone's story consistently does not align with reality, or when a person displays an unusually calm or detached demeanor in the face of tragedy, is another crucial life skill. Heather's composure and ready-made alibis, while not immediately incriminating, were deeply unsettling to investigators and proved to be foundational clues. Most importantly, the case underscores that legal channels for resolving disputes, while sometimes frustratingly slow, are the only legitimate and safe avenues. Bypassing these for vengeful or controlling behavior can lead to unimaginable tragedy. For children caught in Zeshat's crossfires, the long-term impact of parental conflict is devastating. Heather's actions ensured her daughter lost both parents, demonstrating a catastrophic failure of judgment driven by selfish impulse rather than true parental concern. For police and law enforcement, the Alex Eckert case provides several valuable experiential lessons for tracking Deovekep, know culprits faster and more effectively. First, the immediate and intensified focus on close relationships, particularly ex-partners in cases involving domestic violence or custody disputes, proved absolutely critical. The intimate nature of the crime scene, no forced entry, victim in pajamas strongly suggested the perpetrator was known to Alex, immediately narrowing the scope to those closest to him. Second, swiftly cross-referencing all statements made by victims and suspects with existing local, state, and national databases is non-negotiable. Heather's fabricated child abuse claims were easily debunked by Alex's clean record and the earlier dismissal of her allegations, exposing her pattern of deception early on. This established her as a manipulative individual with a motive. Third, the paramount importance of not just securing an alibi, but meticulously and aggressively verifying every detail of it. Taking a suspect's word or even surface-level digital evidence like a Life 360 app at face value can lead to misdirection. In this case, investigators went further, checking electronic base entry logs and later discovering a fraudulent work order. These actions proved invaluable in dismantling Heather's false alibis. Fourth, a systematic and thorough canvassing for video surveillance, extending beyond the immediate crime scene, is crucial. The discovery of grainy footage from a nearby residence provided indisputable visual and auditory evidence of two individuals at the critical time, redirecting the investigation from a single actor assumption and validating suspicions that an accomplice or conspirator might exist, even if only in transport. Fifth, leveraging modern forensic tools and rapid tracing methods is essential. Connecting the recovered .45 caliber shell casing and the discarded pistol to Heather's recent gun purchase through an e-trace and gun show surveillance footage was a swift and decisive victory. This confirmed ownership of the murder weapon and linked her directly to the crime. Sixth, utilizing witnesses who were emotionally close to the perpetrator, not just the victim, can yield rich, unexpected insights. Heidi, Heather's co-worker, was instrumental in peeling back layers of deception, revealing Heather's explicit threats against Alex, her meticulous alibi rehearsal, and the crucial detail about her gun purchase. These insiders often hold key information about motive and premeditation. Finally, the ability to recognize and psychologically profile patterns of control and manipulation during interviews is a powerful asset. Heather's initially calm and self-serving narrative, her attempts to discredit Alex, and her swift offer of alternate suspects all signaled a manipulative personality intent on deflecting suspicion. Combining these interview techniques with the cold, hard facts from databases and forensic evidence is the fastest route to uncovering the truth, delivering justice, and bringing resolution to tragic cases. The combined diligence and interdisciplinary approach of the investigative team, from meticulous crime scene analysis to leveraging digital footprints, witness statements, and forensic science, ultimately ensured that Alex Eckert's brutal murder did not go unpunished, highlighting the unwavering human spirit dedicated to justice, no matter how intricate the web of lies. The chill of an April night in Minot, North Dakota, hung heavy and silent, broken only by the distant hum of the small city. It was the 22nd of April, in the year 2022, just 40 minutes past midnight, when the ordinary peace was shattered by an emergency call. Police officers, trained to respond with swift precision, found themselves racing towards a local apartment complex, their minds already preparing for the unknown. Upon arrival, the scene that greeted them was one of stark, chilling stillness. In the doorway of an apartment, partially visible to the responding patrol, lay the feet of a man. The image was immediate and deeply unsettling. As officers cautiously approached, their weapons drawn, the gravity of the situation became undeniably clear. The male victim was sprawled in a pool of dark, congealing blood. He was clad in pajamas, a stark contrast to the violence that had befallen him, and notably wore no shoes and no socks. This seemingly minor detail would later become a quiet, yet significant piece of the puzzle, suggesting a moment of unsuspecting vulnerability. Perhaps an unexpected visitor. The immediate priority was to ascertain if any life remained. "Guys, check for a pulse for me," an officer commanded, the tension palpable in the night air. But the grim reality quickly set in. No pulse. The life that had once inhabited this young man's body had been extinguished. It was apparent, even in the dim light, that he had sustained a fatal wound to the head. The scene was secured, and a more thorough examination began. Just around the corner, from the exterior apartment door, a single .45 caliber shell casing lay on the ground, a silent but damning testament to the weapon used. The hope was to find the matching weapon, but none was visible. The apartment itself, once cleared for any lingering threats, presented a surprisingly tidy picture. Nothing appeared to have been rummaged through, and the victim's cell phone was still present, ruling out robbery as a primary motive. Amidst the chaos and the grim discovery, another detail emerged that painted a poignant picture of the victim's life. Baby supplies and baby clothing were neatly arranged within the apartment, indicating that a child either lived there or was soon expected to. This domestic scene, so full of hope and preparation, starkly contrasted with the brutal violence that had just unfolded. It was the home of a devoted, well-prepared father. The initial impression of the crime scene suggested that the victim, Alexander Eckert, a 22-year-old, had opened his door to someone he knew. There was no sign of forced entry, no struggle, no damage to the door. This was not a random act of violence, but a calculated one, perpetrated by someone Alex likely recognized and, perhaps, trusted in that fleeting moment. The investigators knew they had to delve into Alex's life, to understand his relationships, his conflicts, his circle. We have to figure out who the person is, know their story. If they were having issues, they kept to anybody, and talk to the people that is closest to them, because they are going to have the most information as far as who would want Alex dead. A detective articulated, outlining the immediate course of action. This was more than just a murder investigation. It was an intricate dive into the human heart, its connections, its passions, and its darkest corners. Alexander Riley Eckert, born on the 25th of October, 1999, had been raised in the seemingly idyllic setting of Winter Garden, Florida, within an affluent and loving family. He had a younger brother, attended phenomenal schools, and excelled in multiple sports including baseball, lacrosse, and football. Alex was not merely athletic. He possessed a sharp intellect and a quick wit, making him a joy to be around. His friends remembered him as not only fun, but also capable of engaging in deep, meaningful conversations. After navigating the high-pressure world of prep school and competitive sports, Alex, with a maturity beyond his years, chose to take a hiatus before embarking on his college journey. He found employment with Disney, a decision that would serendipitously lead him to a pivotal encounter. It was amidst the magical backdrop of Disney World that 19-year-old Alex met Heather Hoffman, a woman 2 years his senior. Heather, then 21, had journeyed to Florida from North Dakota, seeking a new beginning. She was described as exceptionally pretty, intelligent, and outgoing. Her past included participation in beauty pageants and a significant medical event, a brain tumor that required surgical removal shortly after her Miss Minute beauty pageant. Heather typically downplayed the impact of her tumor, presenting it as a past challenge she had overcome. After her surgery and recovery, she moved to Florida, started at Disney, and there her path intertwined with Alex S. Their romance blossomed quickly, appearing to all who knew them as a storybook connection, a perfect, ideal couple madly in love. However, the currents of life soon pulled them back towards North Dakota. The following year, Heather expressed a desire to return to her family, and Alex, ever the devoted partner, agreed to accompany her. His own family background, marked by his parents' divorce and a strained relationship with his father, fueled his yearning for a stable, traditional family life. A big house, friendly neighbors, and children. He envisioned a future with Heather, a complete life built together. They settled in, and in the summer of 2020, their world expanded with the joyful news that 22-year-old Heather and 20-year-old Alex were expecting a daughter. Alex's happiness was boundless. It was a moment of profound excitement, a daunting yet beautiful blessing. Friends looked on with a touch of envy at what appeared to be an all-American boy, living out a true love story, complete with a beautiful girl and a baby on the way. To provide for his burgeoning family, Alex embraced his role with unwavering dedication. He secured a job in retail, quickly rising to a supervisory position at a large department store. His ambition was clear. He wanted to advance his career, earn a substantial income, and secure a prosperous future for his daughter. Simultaneously, he enrolled part-time at Minot State University, pursuing a degree in business. He was, by all accounts, living his best life, diligently working towards his goals, while Heather found employment on the Air Force Base. Yet, this picturesque life, so carefully constructed, was destined to unravel. 7 months after their daughter's birth, the burgeoning stresses of parenthood fractured their relationship, leading to a separation. Friends observed a startling transformation in Heather. It was as if a switch got flipped. She abruptly evicted Alex from their shared home, forcing him to seek refuge with a friend. Heather began to level accusations against Alex, painting him as a drunk and a terrible father, claims that those close to Alex vehemently denied as untrue. These accusations took a profound emotional toll on Alex, who had invested his entire being into building a life with Heather and being a committed father. The sudden upheaval left him heartbroken and disoriented. Despite the emotional devastation, Alex remained resolute in his determination to be an unwavering presence in his daughter's life. He was prepared to navigate the complexities of shared custody, approaching the situation with a practical resolve. Okay, if we re going to do this, then we re going to do it right, he reportedly declared, vowing to be the best father he could possibly be. But this devoted young father's aspirations were tragically cut short, his life ending on the doorstep of his new home, leaving investigators to piece together the shattered fragments of his story and ascertain the motive behind such a brutal act. The initial evidence was sparse. A single .45 caliber spent shell casing and Alex's untouched cell phone. From these humble beginnings, the case had to be meticulously built. The absence of a struggle, a forced entry, or any damage to the apartment door reinforced the early theory. Alex had known his killer. A quick search of the local police database yielded a crucial piece of information: a history of custody disputes between Alex and Heather. Court records indicated a contentious period, with Heather having filed child abuse and sexual abuse claims against Alex approximately a month prior to his death. However, these claims had been deemed inactive due to insufficient evidence, ultimately unfounded. Despite the lack of substantiation, the intensity of their conflict was undeniable, making an interview with Heather an immediate priority. The detectives learned that Heather was residing on the Minot Air Force Base. Detective Hanks and his partner proceeded to the base, locating Heather at her sister S. house. Heather S.'s sister, cooperative and welcoming, granted them entry. Detective Hanks remained downstairs, engaging with the sister and mother, while his partner ascended to speak with Heather. In the initial phase of the conversation, Heather meticulously crafted a narrative portraying Alex as an abusive individual, both physically and mentally, towards her and their daughter. She claimed he struggled with substance abuse, specifically drugs and alcohol. She confirmed she had primary custody of their daughter and revealed she had a new boyfriend named Richie. This swift transition to a new relationship, occurring so soon after her separation from Alex, immediately registered as a red flag for the investigators, prompting them to consider Richie as a person of interest. As the interview progressed, the detectives carefully introduced the devastating news of Alex's shooting. People react to such news in myriad ways, but Heather's initial calm was striking. She simply inquired about Alex's condition. While her composed demeanor was noted as unusual, it was not, in itself, definitive proof of guilt. However, when confronted with the full truth, that Alex's injuries were fatal, Heather's stoic facade finally fractured. Mott mean, Mott met. Not surprised. But Mott still didn't want it to happen this way, she stated, followed by an apology and an acknowledgement of her mixed emotions. She reiterated that Alex was the father of her child, but claimed they no longer communicated. To establish her whereabouts, she readily offered her phone, displaying her Life 360 app, which purportedly showed her at her current location since 5:20 that evening. When questioned about firearm ownership, Heather denied possessing any, admitting only to having looked at a gun at a recent gun show, but claiming she never made a purchase. Despite the lack of direct evidence, the detectives harbored a growing suspicion that Heather, or someone within her immediate circle, was involved. Concurrent interviews with Heather's mother and sister corroborated Heather's portrayal of Alex as a monster. This contrasted sharply with the police database information, which showed her child abuse claims against Alex were quickly dismissed as unfounded. When Heather's family was finally informed of Alex's death, their reactions appeared to be genuine shock and disbelief. Heather's sister, when pressed about Heather's whereabouts on the night of the murder, confirmed that Heather had been home the entire night. This alibi was further bolstered by the unique security protocols of the Air Force Base, which requires identification scans for entry and exit. A review of the base S-logs indicated that Heather had not left the base on the night Alex was murdered, providing her with a seemingly impenetrable alibi. With Heather seemingly cleared, investigators were compelled to broaden their search for leads, focusing on other potential individuals who might have wished Alex harm. The tireless work of canvassing the area for surveillance footage yielded a crucial breakthrough. Detective Gurdon discovered video surveillance from a residence situated just east of Alex's apartment complex. The grainy footage, captured at approximately 10:18 Fun Meme, showed two distinct dark silhouettes moving northbound directly towards Alex's apartment. The video also contained audio, and at roughly 10:28 Fun Meme, a sound unmistakably resembling a gunshot could be heard. Just 2 minutes later, at 10:30 Fun Meme, the same two shadows were observed retreating, walking back in the direction from which they had initially appeared. Despite the low quality of the footage, it was evident that one silhouette was significantly taller than the other. This discovery was a pivotal piece of the unfolding puzzle. The initial red flag raised by Heather S.'s new relationship with Richie resurfaced, presenting a potential new motive for Alex's murder. Investigators considered the possibility that Richie might have acted on Heather's behalf. Upon questioning, Richie was cooperative, stating he had not seen Alex since the 2nd of March and appeared to have maintained a deliberate distance from Alex and Heather's contentious relationship. He was forthcoming about his firearms, owning an AR, a Judge, and a 9mm weapon. However, none of these matched the .45 caliber used in Alex's killing Richie's son, corroborated his father's alibi, confirming they had been home all night. At that stage, there was no credible reason to link Richie to Alex's death. Prior to speaking with Richie, Heather had cast a wide net of suspicion, claiming a lot of people, particularly co-workers, would want to harm Alex. She specifically named Jason Dugan and Dale Bonelli as his shady friends. Investigators first visited Dale Bonelli, who admitted to learning about a murder in North Minnow via a Facebook news article, but denied knowing the victim's identity until police arrived at his door. Dale spoke highly of Alex, firmly believing that if something had happened, it was likely connected to the Hoffman family. He denied any involvement, directly suggesting that detectives should focus on Heather, not Alex's friends or colleagues. Dale's alibi was confirmed, and detectives then questioned Jason Dugan, who echoed Dale's sentiments about Alex and Heather. Jason and Dale's accounts starkly contrasted Heather's narrative of Alex as an abusive monster. They painted a picture of Alex being genuinely afraid of Heather and her family, alleging that certain members of Heather's family had issued threats against him. This consistency between Alex's friends' statements was noteworthy for the investigators. On the second day of the investigation, new critical information emerged from Tony and Danny, two sisters who were friends and co-workers of Alex. They proactively contacted the police, wanting to speak on Alex's behalf. Their testimony directly challenged Heather's claims, revealing that she did not, in fact, have primary custody of their daughter. Rather, she was deliberately withholding the child from Alex. They described the custody dispute as increasingly bitter and intense. They refuted Heather's accusations of Alex being a drunk, stating unequivocally that Alex disliked alcohol, even beer. Furthermore, they asserted that Heather's abuse claims against Alex were baseless and consistently unsubstantiated. Alex had been investigated repeatedly, and each time, No evidence was found to support Heather's allegations. With her claims consistently failing to hold water, the judge had begun to favor Alex's side, ultimately dismissing all her allegations and instructing her to cease supervised visits, as Alex had equal parental rights. To the detectives, this revelation provided a compelling motive for Heather. The impending loss of primary custody of her child, a scenario she had fought so fiercely to prevent, could have driven her to drastic measures. Despite her tentative alibi, the possibility remained that someone else, perhaps one of the many men in Heather's life, such as her brother-in-law, her boyfriend, or a co-worker, could have acted on her behalf. A stroke of luck then dramatically shifted the course of the investigation. A neighbor of Alex's, while walking in the area, discovered a gun on the ground. Law enforcement was immediately contacted, and the weapon was seized. It was a .45 caliber pistol containing several hollow point rounds. Given its proximity to the crime scene, it was highly probable that this was the murder weapon. The gun was swiftly submitted for forensic testing, a crucial step in linking it definitively to the murder and, hopefully, to a suspect. Before the forensic results were even processed, another significant tip arrived. A caller indicated that a woman named Heidi, employed at the Minot Air Force Base, possessed information pertinent to the homicide. This lead promised to unravel more of Heather's carefully constructed narrative. Heidi Cook, tracked down by investigators, worked in the admin office alongside Heather. Heidi initially described Heather as openly positive about Alex, seemingly deeply in love with him and appreciative of his role as a father. However, Heidi observed a distinct shift in Heather's demeanor, coinciding with the emergence of Richie, a co-worker, into Heather's life. Heather and Richie became openly flirtatious, and it was then that Heather began to voice criticisms about Alex, things she supposedly didn't quite like. According to Heidi, Heather wasted no time in ending her relationship with Alex to pursue Richie. Heidi revealed a crucial piece of manipulation. When Heather and Alex separated, Heather presented Alex with a document to sign. Alex, trusting her, signed it, unaware that Heather had cunningly inserted a clause granting her full custody of their daughter. She had deliberately shown him only the signature page, tricking him into relinquishing his parental rights. Upon discovering this deception, Alex immediately sought legal counsel, igniting the bitter custody battle. Heidi confirmed that Heather had leveled numerous accusations against Alex: emotional, physical, and sexual abuse, claims of being a bad father, and drug involvement. Initially, Heidi believed Heather, but over time, inconsistencies began to emerge in Heather's stories, leading Heidi to doubt their veracity.